Welcome to the Wildly Free Podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Plord, business mentor, 3-times founder, and marketing nerd. On this podcast, you'll learn how to break free from the traditional job world and pave your own path so that you can go all in on life. Grab your favorite warm drink and pull up a chair as we talk all things marketing, growth, strategy, and the real and raw sides of entrepreneurship. Hello and welcome back. It has been a while. If you haven't been following me on Instagram and TikTok, then you don't know that I have kind of burned my business to the ground and, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, started anew. And I titled this podcast episode, "Just because you can doesn't mean you should," because of the story that I'm about to tell you. So right now, I just want to set the scene for you. I'm sitting on my couch in my living room, super cozy underneath the blanket that I crocheted for myself last year. My cat, May, aka Maybelline, is sitting on my lap, warming me. I'm looking at my wood-burning stove, and I've got a cup of piping hot chocolate. I just got back from coaching my ski team that I coach just for fun, and it was rough out there today. It was so wet and rainy that my gloves, I'm not kidding, when I squeezed them, a bucket of water fell out of them. So today, I really just wanted to cuddle up on the couch, get some cozy time, and if you can't hear, I'm kind of sick right now. I have a cold. Be cozy on the couch, but I was really inspired to record this podcast episode because my business has been going through a lot of changes, and what better way to bring you all along with me than to relaunch the Wildly Free podcast. If you maybe have noticed, I re-recorded the intro to the podcast. It's still the Wildly Free podcast, but I changed, and therefore the intro needed to change as well. So here is the story, the long and short and sweet. I don't know what I'm saying there, right? So basically, as one does, and we're getting into the real and the raw here of entrepreneurship, because I feel like so many people just talk about their successes, but no one really talks about getting caught up in the crowd, getting caught up in things, and doubting themselves and failure. And that's what I want to bring you all in on, because I have failed many times. I have been caught up in the noise. I have deviated from myself, my zone of genius, and I still flourish. I still am successful. I still bounced back, and I want you to hear this story, this side of the story, because just because you aren't an instant success, just because you haven't instantly made 10K months, just because you haven't had sold out launches, doesn't mean you never will. So let's dive into the story. Long story short, when I'm a 3-time founder of business. My very first business was selling digital downloads on Etsy and Teachers Pay Teachers. It actually still exists. I put very little effort into it, but it's driving in some passive income every single month, paying my grocery bill. Love it. Love a little queen working in the background. But it was this business that I really had to learn how to do marketing. I learned Pinterest. I got my Pinterest page up to 250,000 monthly viewers. And I was obsessed with learning how to be a more efficient marketer. I learned Pinterest. I learned Instagram. TikTok really wasn't a thing yet. I'm dating myself there. But I really learned how to market myself. And I do have a business degree. I went to college and I double majored in business and in environmental science. My environmental science was my number one choice, but I was like, hey, just in case this science thing doesn't work out, I'm going to get my business degree too. And thank God I did, because here I am, a business mentor. But the gist of this is that I did not learn how to do social media marketing in my business courses in college. Social media marketing was not a thing. I learned advertising. I learned, creating ads like flyers and magazine campaigns and TV campaigns, but no one was touching social media. So I really had to figure it out myself. So I just wanted to clear the air here. Just because you have a degree, just because you have the qualifications, just because you got a certification does not mean that you're going to be an instant success, right? A lot of people are out there thinking like, well, I'm not certified. I don't have this. I don't have that. Well, just go out and do it, girl. Like, what's holding you back? The best way to learn is to do. So that was my zone of genius. That was my bread and butter. I loved marketing. And my second business was becoming a social media manager, because I had so many of my peers asking me how I was able to get 250,000 monthly viewers on Pinterest. And I wasn't confident enough to coach them on this. So instead, I was like, hey, I'll do it for you. I'll become your Pinterest manager. And I started with Pinterest. Then I went into Instagram management as well. And I did a little bit of Facebook management. I also did a couple of like general virtual assisting, but most of everything was revolved around marketing. When I doubled my income in 6 months as a social media manager, and that blew my mind. I was like, what? I had no clue. That wasn't even my goal when I started my side hustle on Etsy. I never thought that I would do this full time. I thought it would be a passive thing that I would do in between, because I worked a seasonal job. I was an environmental educator. So I worked in the summers, the fall, and the spring, which left my winters open. So I was thinking, in the winter, I will do this. And then I'll have some passive income coming in. And yeah, so long story short, I doubled my income in 6 months. And I was like, okay. And around that same time, COVID was happening. And I actually lost my job, even though I thought my job was going to be secure. I thought things were going to go great. I would have it for life. It'd always be something I could fall back on. The company went bankrupt. So, and it was a nonprofit. So I don't know how nonprofits go bankrupt, but basically they had to shut their doors. So I learned that I want to be in control of my revenue. And around the same time, I had just doubled my income as a social media manager. And I started getting people asking me, other freelancers, like virtual assistants, graphic designers, bookkeepers. I had them asking me like, yo, how did you find your clients? And at this point in time, I was working with a business coach, and my coach was like, maybe you should think about being a coach. You were a teacher. You were an amazing teacher. And every time we talk, you're like so passionate about helping other people grow their businesses. Maybe this is your time to transition into coaching. So I took that leap of faith and I launched my business coaching, which I believe I launched it in November or December of 2020. Yeah. So I'm 3-year anniversary, baby. So I launched it, and I thought, because I had doubled my income in 6 months as a social media manager, signing 5 clients in a program would be a piece of cake. And boy, was I freaking wrong. Yeah, I struggled to fill that. The reason is because a done-for-you service is way different when you market it than a general service, like an abstract service, like a coaching service or a teaching service or something like that. And I had to really refine my marketing. I had to learn a new side of marketing in my business. I still loved it. I worked with clients. I figured it out. But then I started realizing, I saw other people talking about mindset, talking about energetics, talking about balancing your masculine and feminine energy. And I was like, oh, maybe I need to be talking more about this, because a lot of the work that I was doing with my clients was gaining confidence. You know, a lot of them were coming to me feeling really insecure and feeling like they were too young or too old or they didn't know enough. And a lot of the work that I was doing with them is helping them build their confidence so that their personality shone in their marketing. So I was like, maybe I should be talking about this too. And your girl got a little sucked in to the woo-woo. I got really into human design. I got really into energetics and manifesting. And I completely dropped the strategy side of my business. I was like, I'm just going to be an intuitive mindset coach. And then a little bit along the line, I added back the business and I was like, I'm an intuitive business mentor. But the majority of my marketing, my posts, my content were all surrounding confidence and mindset. And I deviated from my zone of genius, which is marketing and strategy. And as a result, had a series of flopped launches. Every single launch that I tried to do that was in the mindset, intuition, woo-woo, energetic sides of business flopped. There was 4 different offers that I tried to produce, and every single one of them flopped. I was still working with some clients on the back end, but signing clients felt really random. And I was like, what the hell happened? I used to be this marketing nerd. I doubled my income in 6 months. signing clients, and now I'm struggling to sign clients, and I had an identity crisis. I really did. Excuse me. So just because you can doesn't mean you should. Yes, I was coaching my clients on this inside our coaching containers, but just because I was doing this does not mean I needed to rebrand my entire business and that be my entire personality. And I know I'm still very much into human design. It's still a very big part of my business, and I still do a lot of mindset work with my clients, but I am a 1-3 generator in human design, which means that I am an investigator martyr, which means that I need to fail a lot to learn. I'm going to try new things over and over again, and I'm going to fail, but I'm going to learn from it. And it's going to make me stronger, and it's going to make me a better teacher. So like, I am born to be a coach. I am born to fail and teach you all how to avoid failure. Okay? So I want to talk about some signs that you aren't operating in your zone of genius, because it's so easy to get caught up in the noise. And you're like, well, maybe I should be wearing a blazer in my photo shoots because it'll make me seem more of an authority. Every single person I follow on Instagram is using like the hot pink font right now. It's like, just because they're using it doesn't mean I need to, right? My favorite color is green. I'm going to keep using my green, right? So it is so easy to be caught up in the noise and think like, well, they're successful. Maybe I should try to be more like them. And that is the last thing that you should do. As soon as I went back into the marketing side of things, back into the strategy side of things, and I led with that, I led with my zone of genius, I had a $7,000 day, cash day, $7,000 cash day. And that blew my freaking mind. So let's go over 3 signs that you aren't operating in your zone of genius right now. So number 1, you don't feel lit up about what you're talking about. So when you're like creating content, when you're doing live streams, when you're talking to clients, it's just like, it's kind of a drag. Not that you don't love your clients, not that you don't love creating content, but it's just like, there's a difference from when I'm like so passionate and I'm going on this tangent and I'm like walking around the room, I'm talking with my hands, I'm like big smile on my face, ball of energy, talking to my partner, versus when I'm not lit up by something. As a generator in human design, my strategy is to respond. So when I get off a client call that went really well, my energy is through the roof. And that's actually when I go and film more content, because I'm on this like high. I feel high. I'm on this high and I'm like, holy shit, let's film some content. Your girl's got some energy. Let's go. And when I'm not feeling that way, I feel drained. So for example, when I get off my client calls and we're talking strategy, we're talking TikTok, we're talking about how to get visible, I end the call feeling high. When I get off a TikTok live stream, you can hear my cat Gilbert meowing in the background. What's up, Gilly? When I get off a TikTok live stream that didn't go well, let's say there was a lot of haters, which has happened a bunch for me, I am so drained. Like I could fall asleep right then and there. It's like, nope, I'm done. So if you don't feel lit up about what you're talking about, like right now, you can hear it in my energy. You can hear it in my voice. I'm like, yes, let's freaking go. I want to talk about marketing. I want to talk about being in your zone of genius. Let's go. I could run a marathon, but just kidding. I actually don't like running. Another discovery about myself. So ask yourself, like, you'll know when you're in certain situations and you feel activated, that's it. That's where you want to be. Versus when you're like, it's kind of a drag. Like think about going to work. You're working your 9 to 5 and you're like, I really don't want to go to work. Don't create that for yourself in your business. Okay. Number 2, you run out of things to say. Like I could literally I could do like an entire podcast episode. I could do like a Netflix short series on marketing. It could be a long series, honestly, if I had time to prepare. But right now, I'd probably do like a 4-part series just on marketing alone. And I would never run out of things to say. I would think of more things and I could just keep going. I'd be super rambly. Versus like when I was talking about mindset, when I was talking about intuitive work, I would run out of things to say. I would run out of the things that was like in my bank of knowledge. And then I'd just be like, yeah, and that's it. Go back to doing your thought model. Yeah, you'd run out of things to say. So if you can't talk, if someone was like, hey, I need you to just go on stage and talk about something for an hour. If you can't talk about what you're currently doing in your business for an hour, you're not working in your zone of genius. Like, let's say you're a fitness coach and someone's like, I need you to talk about your fitness regimen for an hour. And you're like, yeah, so I do bicep curls and then I do the Stairmaster and you're just like, I don't know what else to say. You're not in your zone of genius, girl. So this brings me to my last note here, the last sign that you aren't operating in your zone of genius. It feels awkward when you're talking about it and that you need to read off a script. One of the biggest things that I noticed from my flopped launches when I was, operating out of my zone of genius was that when I was selling my offer, I had to read the script because it felt so unnatural to me. Now, when I'm selling my offers, it's just like, no, this is the offer. This is who it's for. And you're either with me or you're not. This is what you're going to learn in it. So second nature, because I know it like the back of my hand. If you feel like you need to research something to talk more about it, that's not your zone of genius. And don't get me wrong, we can always be learning more. I can always be learning more, and I am always learning more about marketing. But you shouldn't have to be researching things before you create your content or before you get on a client call, right? So those were the 3 signs. Like, you don't feel lit up about it. You run out of things to say constantly. It feels awkward talking about it. It feels like you have to read off a script. These are all signs that you're not operating in your zone of genius. So here's what I did instead. After my series of flopped launches, I kind of took a break. Over the summer, I was I was living at a summer camp. It was off the grid in Vermont. My partner has been, which by the way, we got engaged. Oh! So my fiance has worked at the summer camp for the past 25 years. Like, holy shit. And well, he hasn't worked there, but he's gone to this as a kid and then grew up and became a counselor in training and then became a counselor. And he's literally gone to the summer camp for 25 years. And we've been together for 6 years. For the last 4 years, I've been asked to come to this summer camp. And I've been told by the director, because they love him at this summer camp, that I could do whatever the fuck I want, basically. That I could work. I could work part-time. I could just be there. I could, anything. We could have our own cabin. We can bring our pets. And every single time I said no, because I was trying to build my business. But meanwhile, I wasn't achieving the goals that I wanted to over the summer when we were separated. We didn't break up or anything, but when he was in Vermont and I was in our home state in New Hampshire, I didn't get anything done because I missed my other half. And if you know anything about me, you know that I love the outdoors. And being unplugged in nature, there's nothing more that lights me up besides marketing. That's my other love, right? So I finally said yes to it. And it was one of the best things that I ever did because, one, I got to spend way more time unplugged and out in nature. I actually ended up being at the waterfront. I was a lifeguard. So I was teaching kids how to swim. And I did that in the mornings and in the afternoons. And then in the evenings, I worked on my business. And this was a really great time for me. I created something called my nature office. I would go into the woods and just do a CEO day in the woods. Just me, my notebook, my phone. And I would record content. I would figure out what I wanted to do. I would work with my clients in my nature's office. And I brought that back home with us. Once we got back to New Hampshire, I continued to go to my nature office. And that is where I feel most alive right now. Unfortunately, it's winter. So my nature office is not as pleasant as it was when there was sun shining and birds out and, it was beautiful and warm. But it's the same, right? So I really went back to my roots and I found myself again. I feel like I reawoken who I was as an entrepreneur. I was still working. I was still running my business. I still had clients. I was still creating content, but I had to do it in a different way. It was off grid pretty much because we did not have a bathroom in our cabin. We had electricity, but our Wi-Fi was very spotty. And I only had like an hour every single day where I could use the Wi-Fi and get things done. So I would, prioritize client calls, and then I would spend all the rest of the time creating content and creating just programs and offers and redoing everything for you. So I actually redesigned my entire product suite because my offer suite was, again, I had a lot of flopped launches. So I had to get rid of all those that were no longer lighting me up. And I realized that one of the most big problems, that I had in my business was that when I would launch an offer, it was for anybody, as long as you were my ideal client. So if you came to me and you were a brand new entrepreneur and you wanted to join my program, I'd be like, yeah, sure. If you came to me and you were like a 5-year-old entrepreneur, like you've been in business for 5 years and you've scaled to 10K months, I'd also be like, yeah, join. And that was the problem. My offer suite was for everybody instead of being a natural ladder that my clients could climb up through. So I was having a really hard time having client retention. I felt like every single time I signed a client, it kind of felt random and there was not like a natural progression. And you always hear people say like detach from the sale and say no to people. But I was like, why on earth would you say no to people? And I also, if you asked me what was the number one transformation someone would get from my offer, I'd be like, it depends on the client. Oof. Oh my God. So embarrassing. So I redid my entire product suite, my offer suite, and I can talk more about this. I can do an entire episode on this if you all want. Send me a DM on Instagram if you want me to do that. But I discovered my standout system. Now, this is really important because when you're operating in your zone of genius, the standout system is the launch pad for your business. It's what's going to help your business rocket ship take off. It's what's going to get you to 10K months. It's what's going to get you to 20K months. It's going to get you to $1 million one day if you have these basics in place. And this has become my bread and butter, my passion. I can look at someone's account right now and tell you in 10 seconds whether they have a profitable offer and they're like using the standout system and they're going to be successful. I can tell you in 10 seconds whether it's going to work for you or not. And this is why. So number one, it's kind of like a triangle. If you picture a triangle, at the top of the triangle is your ideal client. You have to understand your ideal client on the best friend level. And when I say best friend level, I mean like get in the friend zone. A lot of people are talking about getting out of the friend zone with their audience, but I want you in there because I don't know about you, but do you remember when you were a child going to sleepovers and it'd be like 2:00 in the morning and you guys should be asleep, but you're awake and you can't sleep and you've just been talking. And the subjects have changed from like, fun girl talk to really deep shit. You're talking about your fears. You're talking about your crushes. You're talking about like the most embarrassing moment you've ever had. And you're like laughing and crying together. And you're just super vulnerable. That is what you need to be on the level with your ideal client. That's the level you need to be on with your ideal client. Let's reframe that. And why do you need to be on this level? Well, this is how you get people to comment and say like, oh my God, it feels like you're speaking directly to me. Because you build that know, like, and trust with them. Selling should feel as easy as FaceTiming your best friend. And if it doesn't feel that way right now, then we need to get to the deeper level of your ideal client. So a lot of people are like, my ideal client are creative females. Okay, great. Tell me more, right? So we need to understand your ideal client on a best friend level, get in the friend zone, and their number one problem. So for example, I know my clients right now are struggling with signing clients, and that is like the surface level problem. That's so vague, and we can get even deeper with that. Why are they struggling to sign clients? Well, one, they aren't visible online. Their content's kind of all over the place. Why is their content all over the place? Well, Because their offer isn't very clear. It's not specific. Why is their offer not very clear and not specific? Well, because they don't really have a clear understanding of their ideal client. Boom. So we have to get to the root of the problem, and that is your zone of genius. Once you get to the root of the problem, like you are the solution, your offer is the solution to that. It's your zone of genius. So you need to understand your ideal client. You need to know their habits, their fears, their desires. So I know my ideal clients just want to sign enough clients to be able to pay off their debt and to never have to worry about like checking their bank account before they go shopping. They're sick of like buying the low quality eggs, and they just want to be the girl who can buy like free range eggs or be on a vegan diet, just buy like all the fresh produce without having to budget for it. Like imagine if you just had enough money every single month, more than enough money every single month, that you didn't have to worry about it. You didn't have to worry about where your bills were going to be paid or not. You didn't have to worry about checking your bank account before you go shopping. You can indulge and go out to restaurants a couple of times a month. Like that's what my clients want. They just want to have enough. And I know there's a bunch of you out there that are like, no, I want to do more than that. I want to have more than enough. But right now, deep down, all you care about is having enough. And I also know that you feel like you've tried everything and nothing is working. You feel like people are just lying about their success on social media. You are doubting yourself. Is it really possible for me? It seems like everyone else is successful but me. Maybe I'm an outlier. Maybe it's not going to work for me. So these are the thoughts. These are the fears. These are the desires you need to know about your ideal client. What are they crying about to their partner over ice cream at night? What are they dreaming about? What kind of like videos are popping up on their TikTok For You page? Like these are all things you need to know about your ideal client. And that's how you create content that has them commenting, "Oh my God, I feel like you're speaking to my soul." Literally a comment I've gotten from somebody. The next part of the standout system is then answering their number one problem by creating a highly specific offer that solves that problem and only that problem. A lot of people, especially new entrepreneurs, are so eager to show their entire expertise, their authority, that they cram everything into one offer. And that was a huge problem for me in my first launch because I was like, I had all these people asking me how I was signing all these clients, how I doubled my income in 6 months. And I was like, okay, first you got to do this, then this, then this, then this. And I was like throwing everything at them and they were overwhelmed. And they left the program with not a great transformation because I just threw content at them. Instead of like giving them bite-sized pieces, allowing them to implement, allowing them to learn and strengthen that muscle. So contrary to belief, you actually need to scale back the content that you put in your programs so that your clients can get bigger results, right? That makes no sense. We have to unlearn the thought that more is more because less is actually going to get your clients more results. Think about a baby. If you're trying to teach a baby, for example, I'm a ski coach. I teach kids how to ski. And when you're first getting started, imagine, and if you know nothing about skiing, I apologize. But imagine if you're like, you need to be in parallel, you need to be carving, you need to be doing edging, you need to be doing all these things. And the person like barely even knows how to stand up on their skis. They're like slipping and sliding and they feel really uncomfortable. That advanced stuff is too advanced for them. I know that they're going to have a really good day in their lesson if I just help them get balanced on their skis. If I just help them get down a very basic slope in pizza in the wedge form. So I'm not giving them the advanced stuff. I'm giving them it's like dumb simple to me. I outlearned that when I was 6. But to them, that's everything. And they're leaving their lessons smiling. That's the exact same kind of offer that you need to be giving your clients. You're not giving them everything, and you have to think back to when you were a beginner. What were you learning? And even if you're not teaching beginners, even if your ideal clients are not beginners, you still have to break down the things that are second nature to you. That's what makes you a good coach. That's what makes you a good teacher, is that you break things down into small bite-sized pieces. So that's why the standout system is you create a highly specific offer that solves one problem. one problem at a time. So for example, my product suite is I have a membership. It's called the Wild Wealth Portal. It's a $97 membership per month. And this is where you learn the standout system. I teach you how to build an offer. I teach you how to understand your ideal client. And I teach you how to get visible, which is the next step I'm going to talk about in a second. That is for the people who are making less than $5,000 in their business right now. That is for the people who don't really have a solid offer, doesn't have a profitable offer that's selling right now, and needs to learn the foundations. So if you are not making $5,000 yet in your business, I'm going to send you to that offer. The next offer that I have in my offer suite is Stand Out. It's a 6-week program where you learn how to stand out from the crowd and sell out your offer. So now that you have the offer in place, you've built it, you understand your ideal client, you're getting visible, now we can sell out your program. That's Stand Out. Sell out your program and stand out. So if you're making less than $5,000, you're brand new, you don't have an offer yet, or maybe you do have an offer, it's just not working very well for you, signing clients feels random, you're going to go into my membership. If you're like, hey, I have an offer in place, I've done the work, I'm ready to sell out that offer, you're going to go into Stand Out. And then if you're like, over $5,000 per month, if you're in that range, you're going to scale in my mastermind or in my VIP one-on-one. So each program is for a different level of my one-on-one, of my ideal clients. So if someone came to me in my DMs and said, hey, I am currently making $3,000 in my business and the only offer they have in their link in bio, for example, if I go look at it, is one-on-one, I'm going to send them to my membership. If they come to me and they're like, hey, I'm making $3,000 per month and they have this amazing offer that they've been trying to sell, they just haven't had any success, I'm going to put them into my Stand Out program. If someone comes to me and they say, hey, I want to join Stand Out, I'm currently making about $7,000 in my business, but like X, Y, and Z, their desire, I'm probably not going to put them in Stand Out if it's not a good fit. If they are able to sell their offers and sell out their offers, but they want more, I'm going to put them in my mastermind where they can learn how to scale. Can you see how each offer serves a different point of client? So your very beginner client can literally climb up the ladder all the way to your VIP one-on-one. Or if someone comes in and they're like on step number 3 of the ladder, they can still climb up the ladder. Instead of just having one offer that's for everybody. And what do you do when that offer is over? There's nowhere else to go. I guess you can go to my VIP one-on-one, but what if they're not ready for that, right? We are serving our audience more when we have specific offers that helps them step to their next place. Little baby steps, and each offer is getting them closer and closer to their desires. Okay, the last part of the standout system is getting visible AF. If you understand your ideal client, if you have an offer that you're selling, and it's not selling right now, chances are you just aren't visible. People don't know who you are. So getting visible AF means understanding how to create content that speaks to your audience. This is where we go into content. This is where we go into Instagram versus TikTok versus podcasting versus YouTube. This is the marketing. This is my bread and butter. This is where we get to play. And this is where I say literally every strategy works. You just got to find the one that works for you. I have someone in my mastermind, the one I go to get coached, who gets all of her clients from Facebook. Meanwhile, I have another client who's Gen Z and she's like, I don't have a Facebook account, So just because that works for one of my clients or one of my friends in my mastermind doesn't mean it's going to work for my clients. I also have another client who has gotten all of her clients from word of mouth, from networking. None of it has come from social media. She came to me because she wanted to learn how to get clients from social media. So every single strategy works as long as you find the one that's going to be the most fun for you and it's going to help you show your personality the most. So for me right now, I started with Instagram, then I built on TikTok, and now I'm building on YouTube and podcasting and stuff like that. So we have to figure out what's going to work for you. But the number one thing you need to be doing every single day is showing up and creating a touch point with your audience, getting visible, saying, hello. So everyone thinks that being an online entrepreneur is so much easier than like creating a storefront, but that's not true. Being an entrepreneur is hard no matter what method you go down. But if you have a storefront, you make money when you open your storefront, when you're in the storefront. On social media, when you're an online entrepreneur, you make money when you show up. So every single day, if you want to be signing clients, you need to be creating a touch point that says, hi, I'm open. Here I am. Here's my name. Here's what I do. That looks like posting on TikTok. That looks like posting on Instagram. You don't have to post 5 times. You just have to open up once. Say, hi, I'm here once. Sell on your stories once. We go into this more, but that's like the basics. You have to basically, to sell out your launches, you have to gather people and then sell to them. Gather people and sell to them. That's all it is. So pick your platform and then show up and do that over and over and over again. Now, if you're like posting for 90 days straight and you're still not seeing results, we got to figure out your messaging. Something's not clicking. Maybe your offer isn't actually profitable. Maybe your offer isn't specific enough. Maybe you don't know your ideal client's language that they're using. You're kind of using jargony words. That's where we get to go in deep into your messaging and tweak things. Usually it's like a tiny little tweak that is just creates the aha moment for your client, for your audience. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll join now. Right? So that's the standout system. I developed this after I failed multiple times. And then I had my $7,000 day, $7,000 cash day. So I hope I'm leaving you with this podcast episode of just because you can doesn't mean you should. And the number one place that's going to bring you the most success is your zone of genius. If you're not in your zone of genius right now, I want you to send me a DM and let's have an open conversation about what is going to light you up the most. For all you listening, we've got some new things in the world, in the Wildly Free world. So I mentioned that we have the Wild Wealth Portal. That's my $97 per month membership where you can learn the standout system. I actually go into it and there are multiple trainings under each point to help you build out your own standout system. Then there's also my free community. This is free. I go live in it once a week. And there's also a free training that's 90 minutes long called the Formula to 7K Months, where I break down that $7,000 day that I had and help you reach 7K months. All of that can be found in my free community, the Inner Circle. It's free. I'll link all of these options in the show notes. And then lastly, in the month of January, I am launching Stand Out. This is my program for people who are ready to sell out their offers. So if you have an offer in place that you're really passionate about and you've been selling and signing clients kind of feels random, it feels like a fluke sometimes, you don't really know what you need to do to post to sign a client. It kind of feels like every time you post, you're like, I hope this is the one that signs me clients. Join Stand Out. We start at the end of January. And then lastly, that's about it. If you want to work one-on-one, send me a DM privately. Connect with me on Instagram and on TikTok. I'm on both. And I am super excited to bring you more Wildly Free podcast episodes. And I got rid of everything, y'all. I used to have a podcast microphone. I'm literally just sitting here on my couch talking into my phone. I wanted to scale back as much as possible and just be real and raw with you because that's who I am. I don't need fancy things. I don't need, I don't need anything. I just want to talk like we're FaceTiming. And we're just two friends talking about our fears, talking about our desires. So if that is something that's interesting to you, if you're like, yes, finally a business coach that's speaking the truth, who's not covering up their failure, welcome to the world. I'm so excited for you to be here. Go join my Inner Circle. It's free. There's no excuse for why you're not in there. It's a party. And if you're interested in either Stand Out or the Wild Wealth Portal, go to the show notes, click on the links, or send me a DM on Instagram. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I will see you next time. Bye.